this temporary deal we've reached, and we don't really know exactly what's in it. My concern is if you look at the language of the deal on nukes, which Donald Trump said this is why he was fighting the war, it is identical, as in plagiarized, as in lifted straight off of Obama's deal. They used the same words. They lifted it off of the Obama deal and put it on this deal on nukes. So the whole idea that Obama was weak on nukes and he's going to be tougher, if you even read the language of this memorandum of agreement, it's identical. Then you can talk about the okay, well, here's Obama's. Iran affirms that under no circumstances will Iran ever seek, develop, or acquire any nuclear weapons. That's July 14th, 2015. Republicans melted down. Donald Trump said it was the worst plan ever, that Iran was going to get a nuclear weapon because of this deal. And this is what Donald Trump says. Iran cannot develop or purchase a nuclear weapon. And actually, it's actually closer than that. I will get it, but it's the identical language. And then you have Donald Trump saying, "Oh, the strait will be open forever for free." Well, no, that's not what the Iranians are saying. There's a 60-day period, and then they expect to start receiving tolls. Regime change. The president had said earlier that we had regime change. Now he's saying he doesn't care about regime change. This regime tougher than the one before, which was pretty bad. And you can just go down the list of what I'm waiting for, talking about the other shoe to drop, is there going to really be reconstruction money for the Islamic Republic of Iran? It sure sounds like it. What's this sanctions relief look like? Because the Trump team told me that Biden giving sanctions relief to the Iranians was the worst thing he ever did. So again, a lot of confusing things. I hope we have us a good, solid deal that keeps Iran contained. Right now, I'm seeing nothing in here, but that would do that. But maybe you can assure me that I haven't read deep enough into the memorandum of understanding.
So, Joe, it's always a good thing when a conflict ends. This is one that's really harmed the global economy. So yes. If the Strait of Hormuz is reopened, and that seems to be the basic top line of this deal, that will be a good thing for the global economy. It is a long way to go for what appears to be very little in terms of locked-in promises from Iran. It does look very similar to the JCPOA, which Trump scrapped. Some of the provisions may even be somewhat weaker. It's hard to tell because we're just going to begin those negotiations this week and over the next 60 days. But I think in some ways the thing that's most important but seems most unrealistic in this deal is this idea of a broad change in the Middle East, a process where the U.S. over time, if Iran responds positively, begins to pump development money, not just reconstruction, but to build Iranian businesses, and has a vision for Iran becoming, over time, a country more like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates than like the very closed and really impoverished country it's been. If they can do that, if the Iranians are really prepared to make those changes, that would be a significant move into the future. But right now, in terms of what's actually agreed, actually on paper, it's pretty thin. The main achievement is one that I don't want to discount, opening the Strait of Hormuz. But otherwise, not a lot there yet.
Yeah. And let me say, if by some miracle, and it would truly be a miracle going back to 1979, this deal somehow brought Iran into the League of Nations, how wonderful that would be. Also, if the Atlanta Falcons win the next 10 Super Bowls, what a wonderful, wonderful run that will be for all of us who have been suffering with Atlanta since, well, before 1979. But Richard Haass, I want to read you now. I have the exact language. Here is the language in the understanding that was signed. Iran affirms that under no circumstances will Iran ever seek, develop, or acquire any nuclear weapons. Got that? That sounds pretty tough. Here is a preamble to the 2015 JCPOA that Trump tore up. Iran affirms that under no circumstances will Iran ever seek, develop, or acquire any nuclear weapons. You are literally looking at the same exact words. And as far as the Strait goes, Donald Trump says, well, it's going to be toll-free forever. No, that's not what the Iranians believe. They believe that after 60 days, they're going to be able to start charging insurance, start charging other fees. That's at least what they're saying. And regime change, we've all talked about it. The regime is actually more hardened. They're angrier. They have more of a reason to seek and build out their military capabilities than they did before, because the United States did attack. I guess my question is, can you find a single area where if you look at the Strait, if you look at regime change, if you look at nukes, where we are in a better position today than we were under Barack Obama's deal before the war?
The short answer, I'm sorry to say, Joe, is no. And let's just break it into those three parts. The Strait, yes, will be reopened. That's a good thing. But you'd have to believe in the tooth fairy to think it will remain open unconditionally to all without a toll. I think it's a question of when, not if. Not only do the Iranians start adding a toll, but at some point they'll deny access. Just say there's a new crisis with Israel and a country is shipping arms to Israel. I expect it's quite possible that Iran will close the Strait to the ships, to ships carrying oil or goods to that country. So, that's one thing. On the nuclear, where you read the language, it's not just that it's similar. That is nothing more than a statement of intention. And as we've learned over the years in arms control, what really matters is not statements of intention, it's capabilities. So the real question with the nuclear is, what is Iran going to be sign up to, and can it be verified? And there's been a remarkable lack of conversation here about the verification capabilities. What about international inspectors? What kind of information is Iran going to be required to provide on a regular basis so inspectors have the access they need? And so there's that entire detailed area. And then last, the people of Iran are really among the big losers here. Why? Because we're going to be transferring enormous sums of money. Either we're going to release frozen assets, ease sanctions. Iran is going to make a lot of money. That's going to shore up, as you said, Joe, this even harder line regime. So I actually think Iran is going to be farther away from the kind of broad systemic regime change that actually it wasn't that far away from before this war broke out.
Yeah, Jonathan, it's one of the many reasons why Israel is so dead set against this. What they see is an enraged Iran with more radical leadership. You have the Revolutionary Guard now running it, and the most hardened elements of the Revolutionary Guard. They believe, and as Richard said, everybody around these talks believe that 60 days in, they're going to start charging tolls. And then you look at the sanctions relief they're going to get, which, again, the Trump administration, as you know, constantly berated Joe Biden's administration for lifting sanctions against Iran from time to time. They're going to do it, and we have talk of reconstruction if Iran behaves well down the road. I mean, as Richard said, and again, the devil's in the details. We're really glad there's a possibility that this war, which should have never started, comes to an end. But let's just tell it like it is. If people want to be lied to, go to another channel, because I can tell you which channel to go to. They will be lying through your teeth to you right now, telling you how wonderful this is. But if you want to know the truth of what's happening right here, the fact is, Jonathan, people in the neighborhood around Iran have every reason to be scared to death right now, because this is a more radical, a more enraged, and soon to be richer Iran thanks to this war.
Yeah, we'll tell it like it is. This is a defeat for the United States. Iran is stronger now than they were at the beginning of the war. How often do we hear not just President Trump complaining about the sanction relief that the Biden administration gave Iran, but think about all the pallets of cash, that he would blast the Obama team for sending to Tehran. That's going to be dwarfed by the amount of money that's likely going there now. On the Strait of Hormuz, not only is after 60 days, Iran has indicated they believe they'll charge for tolls, but B, despite President Trump's celebration last night about the strait being open and free for everyone to use, obviously that's temporary, but also it already was. Before the war, that was the status quo. That's how things existed. He made things worse. We now have a hardline regime embittered and certainly no reason to ever trust the United States again because we keep bombing them during the midst of negotiations. Let's think about the cost here, not just the billions upon billions in terms of dollars the United States spent, but also the lives lost, civilians, including a girls' school in the first hours of the war. This is a significant, the United States looks significantly weaker right now in that region than before. And Iran's ability to close the Strait of Hormuz and hit its neighbors seems, unchecked.